who's going to win the House in 2024, we're going to look at the 23 races that are competitive and see who's going to come out on top. So as of right now, just to give you a little sampling of what's going on, you see the polling, and really to get to the brass tacks, where the money's going. The money historically has been pro-Democrat when it comes to who's going to win this. But as of right now, it's been peaking. As we all know, there's been the Kamala craze, and that is yet to have stopped. And especially when it trickles down to the House, it's still strong. You look at the gambling odds, like I said, you have a 65% odds of Democrats winning the House, which is a flip over what we have now. The Republicans right now control the House by about 8 seats. And so that's a pretty amazing if you really look at it. It's a really small majority when you really consider the fact that there's about 435 seats. To have an 8-seat advantage is infinitesimal, to say the least. It's probably not even a 2% difference in margin over the Democrats. It's crazy. So addressing some vague polling, just basically what the thumb on the scale is right now. It seems like people are predicting in the aggregate, according to Real Clear Politics, that the congressional ballot will be 0.5% Democrat. For the layperson out there, I get you. We're all not nerds, okay? But the point is that this is basically, if you were to get everybody who's voting for Congress, it would end up with a 0.5 advantage to the Democrats. Again, a very small, razor-thin advantage. In fact, the margin of error for polling generally is about 3 percentage points. So if you're up by 0.5, you should have no confidence in you winning. Plus, it always doesn't cut out that way. But gerrymandering and redistricting that is happening all the time, especially more recently in this upcoming decade or the 2020s, basically a 0.5 differential could be explained by different voting in certain districts. And so to give the advantage to the Democrats outright is not really fair. Also, keep in mind that the race, as of the past several months, has been super neck and neck the whole time. If you look back a couple of weeks, Republicans are winning the generic ballot, and you can look at this distribution. You can see how Republicans have been dominating, in fact, in the House vote for a while now. But let's look into why people might say the Democrats are going to win this House election in general. Look, point is that if Kamala wins, the Republicans down ballot can still win. Well, what do I mean? In 2020, you see this result, and you notice it for what it is. The Republicans lost the popular vote in the House by over 3 percentage points, yet gained 16 seats over the Dems. That's pretty impressive. What that basically means is that much like how Donald Trump could still win the election in the Electoral College while still losing the popular vote like Bush did in 2000 even, you'll notice that the Democrats are disadvantaged when it comes to the House too. Now, it's a lot more even as a result of popular vote distribution because it's national, more so than a federal election, and it's hard to explain it, but that's the way the Electoral College works. But when it comes down to the House races, you can see that Republicans can still lose the popular vote and gain. Now, granted, this is not always the case. For example, in 2022, we won, and Republicans, I'm biased, obviously, they won it by about 2.7 percentage points, but they only gained 10 seats. But the science behind this is because, obviously, when you have a lot of elections in sway, the result is a lot more elastic. When we're talking about elections like this one, where it's super polarized, we have Trump versus Kamala, it's a couple point swing either way on as to who wins. It becomes an issue of there's only 23 seats in contention. Back in 2010, you could have had a 50-seat majority sway either way because those elections were a lot more even and, like I said, elastic. Nowadays, a lot of people are set in their ways like an old dog, and you can't teach them new tricks or new voting habits. So some more polling for you guys before we get into the actual predictions, okay? We're going to go one by one. But as you can see here, Democrats, again, are up by 0.8. But as you see the entire time, it's been pretty even the entire race. And so it's really hard to make of it either way. Now, granted, there are some factors we can look into. In 2020, the last presidential election where they were doing congressional polling, you'll notice that Democrats were predicted to win the popular vote by 6.8 percentage points, whereas now we can see that the Republicans only lost by 3.1. And so that's a low ball of 3.7. As you recall, Biden was predicted to win the popular vote by the polling institutions by 7 to 8 percentage points. But what that means for you guys is that all of a sudden, you'll notice that clearly they tend to lowball the Republicans in the polling thus far, especially when Trump's involved, tangentially even. Now, let's get into the actual prediction real quick. So Mary Patola is an interesting candidate. She won the special election in 2022 by the slightest of margins, and you might think to yourself, well, that must mean that it's available to flip. Trump won Alaska at large by 10 points 4 years ago. The truth is, though, that it's a difficult ask. They have something called rank choice voting. What that means is that they pick the 4 highest voted candidates in the primary that's coming up this Tuesday. Well, what that means basically is that if you have one Democrat with, let's say, 40% support, like she may have, and then you have three separate Republicans with like 20% each, what it means is that she technically wins, even though she doesn't even have 50% support of the people in the district. So ranked choice voting definitely helps the Democrats in this niche scenario. So it really depends on who gets on the ballot. If there's two Democrats, the splintering might actually break even and actually help the Republicans eventually, but it all depends on that circumstance. So for now, we're going to assume that it's going to be her at the top with all the Democrats lining up behind her, as that's what I know, and then three Republicans kind of screwing themselves over, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. This could change, though. We'll see next Tuesday. Now, when it comes down to David Schweikart, again, he's a guy who is scandal prone. That being said, can you even say what the scandal is? I'm somebody who's pretty nerdy. I keep a thumb on the scale. I try to check everything out. I don't really know what the depth of his scandal even is. And so for this to be a big issue seems to not be that big of a deal breaker for the people that are voting in the district, much less somebody at the national level. But moreover, when you look at Amish Shah, okay, I've never even heard his name aside from reading it in passing. So again, we're talking about name ID. When you're trying to beat an incumbent, it's best to have national recognition as a candidate, similar to Connor Lamb years ago in Pennsylvania. You need to have federal and outside money coming in to outspend the incumbent that's been winning for over a decade. As you can see here, this guy's been winning since like 2010. But what's also interesting is that he outperformed Trump against Joe Biden. He won by 2.5 percentage points more than Trump did. Trump lost by 1.5. He won by 1. Sorry. Trump lost by 1.5, Schweikart won by 1. And so if Trump is likely to win the district by like 2, then Schweikart would probably win it by like 3. That's just the way it works. And the scandal doesn't really matter too much. Now, when it comes down to Juan Ciscomani, this is somebody who is a strong candidate. A lot of people will give him the label rhino, but that's actually a good thing in this case. So Ciscomani will likely win because he is going to get all the Trump support like he did in 2020, and he'll outperform it even by a little bit. Now, you don't need to outperform it by much. As you can see here, it was basically tied in 2020. Biden won the district allegedly by 0.1 percentage points. So for Ciscomani to do 1.6% better means that Trump will almost definitely win the 6th district this time around. Therefore, Juan will win. I'd give him 2 to 3 odds at least. Juan Duarte, or John Duarte, whoops, that's my Mexican in me, but he outperformed by a ton. In fact, he outperformed Biden relatively. Sorry, what the hell happened there? Okay, anyway, he outperformed the Trump performance in 20 against Joe by about 11 percentage points. Very good. That being said, that's on an off year. Off years like midterms and non-presidential years are more elastic than our elections where you have Trump on the top of the ballot. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. So he's likely to lose here, even if he is a formidable politician, as I probably assume he is. David Valadao, similar casualty here. He outperformed Trump in 2022 by about 15 percentage points, or 16 almost. But again, to do that while you have a candidate for Democrats that are probably going to do way better. And my grammar's all over the place again. But the point being is that definitely David Valadao is poised to lose. Mike Garcia is an interesting one because you have a guy who's, again, electorally probably the strongest guy in California as of right now. He outperformed Trump, again, by like over 18 percentage points. But even in an off year that wasn't super friendly to Trump, like in 2019, I think he ran against Christy Smith or somebody like that, or Katie Porter maybe. I think that he is more likely to win than not. Ken Calvert is somebody who fended off somebody by about 5 percentage points in 2022. And that was somebody who was stronger than what he is now. And so it is something where he's been in Congress for over 30 years. It's going to be pretty likely he'll stay in there. Michelle Steele, another solid candidate, somebody who resonates with those types in Orange County. The types that obviously, I mean, demographically, suburban, Asian, you got it. Okay, so we've got that on lock. Again, she is in a Biden district, but I think that district would probably go 1 to 2 points for Kamala anyway. And so she already outperformed Trump by 5. And so she only needs to do half as good this time around to win. Katie Porter, again, retiring to go for the Senate. Now, this is interesting. This election will likely still go Democrat. As you can see here, she underperformed expectation, notably by about 7.7 percentage points. That being said, the circumstances nationally will make it that the coattails for anybody running under the Kamala ballot will likely win the district. As you can see, if the Democrat won it in 2020 by 11, odds are that that would remain the same. Again, if Scott Baugh were some crazy superstar, you might see some different results, but it is what it is. Okay, Lauren Boebert is likely to win. She's moving from a pretty hard district relative to her popularity to an easier one. That's simple. Yadira Carrero is somebody who is pretty vulnerable in this 8th district of Colorado. In fact, Biden only won it by 4.6. Harris is likely to almost lose it. In fact, I'd probably venture to say she'd probably win it by maybe only 1 or 2. The Republican last time got within a percentage point. So if that trend carries on, then as long as Trump does a percent better on net than he did 4 years ago, then he's likely to win. Now, Colorado is different than most states because it's trending blue just at the demographic level, whether it be yuppies moving in from California that are millennial Democrats, or, these types, or immigrants that are Latino that also vote disproportionately Democrat. Those are negatives for Republicans going forward. But for now, it might seem like a flip. And so I'll say that as it is. Jayana Hayes in Connecticut's 5th district is interesting, as obviously you have somebody who underperformed like freaking crazy. But again, Republicans in Connecticut have had some luck, like Stefanowski in the past. These are in off years, though. So when it comes down to it, a Democrat will retain a seat, even if she does barely win it by a couple points, because obviously Biden won it by 11. And so that's pretty remarkable. Okay. Marianne, or whatever her name is, Marionette Miller Meeks. Okay, she's gonna win easily. We already got that. 2 reds probably means a victory. Okay, that's just the common sense. Okay, think of it as like pH levels on a pool. Okay, those colors are really synonymous with victory, because again, Trump is going to do better than in 2020. So when we look at the 2020 results, you got to add a couple points to the GOP nominee, assuming the candidate is not horrible. Zach Nunn, again, he will probably stay as well. Eric Sorensen is super close to losing, but Illinois will probably stay slightly blue, to be honest. Just because, again, the trends are suburbs are not super friendly to Trump. He will do a little better than in 20. It seemed like a massacre there last election cycle, but he should be fine. Frank Mervan, I don't know how you say his name, is going against Randy Niemeyer, who will probably lose to the incumbent Democrat. Indiana has only 1 Democrat district, believe it or not, even though Obama won it before. But still, it seems like they're going to retain that 1 big city Democrat congressional slot. Garrett Graves is an interesting person. He is not running for re-election, which might put this seat up for jeopardy. But truth is that, I mean, if Biden won this district by 20, there's no freaking way that a Republican would win. So I can see why he quit. Jared Golden is somebody who is the golden boy for Maine. He knows exactly where to play his cards. He knows exactly how to appeal to voters in Maine, and he will somehow get those Trump voters to get him over the edge. And so I think that's very easy to say. Slotkin is another interesting proposition. As we can see here, Alyssa is somebody who won by 5, even though she outspent the Republican by a metric crap ton. And so it's hard to believe that, her leaving would be anything but a disaster for the candidate. It's an open seat, like I'm saying. It's likely that Tom Barrett will win. He went against her last time, and he's going to have more name ID going in this election. Plus, he's going to have a fundraising advantage relative to the landslide sort of result we were having last election cycle. So I think it's likely to be a flip. It's a very purple district, but Trump will likely do better in Michigan now than he was 4 years ago. And so by that logic, I think that a generic Democrat, like let's say Curtis Harrell, will likely lose that seat. No, Dan Kildee is somebody who's retiring, and that's too bad for the Republicans or the Democrats. I mean, it's a toss-up either way. How do you want to slice it? A lot of these old politicians might be seen as out of touch. But now we have Kristen Rivet versus Paul Jung, and honestly, I see this as a Democrat win. Well, actually, I don't know. Biden won it by 2. I think Trump will do definitely better than that. I think Trump will probably win the district. So as long as the Republican down ballot doesn't screw the pooch, he'll be fine. Same thing with John James. Angie Craig will probably stay. These odds are a little too negative for Donald Trump to make up a 7-point difference. That's pretty obvious. Don Davis, that's going red, obviously. I mean, a 2-point advantage. Trump will do 2 points better in that district, I promise. And if he doesn't, I'm going to look like an idiot, but we're going to have way bigger problems if he loses North Carolina. Anyway, Don Bacon, somebody who is like the Jared Golden, but for the Republicans, a moderate. People would call him a rhino. He gets elected, though. So that's the thing that matters. Now, when it comes down to it, will you retain the vote in 2025? Yes. Why? Because he is somebody who outperformed Trump by a ton. And even if Trump loses the district by less than 5, I still think that Don Bacon would have ticket splitting go his way. Chris Pappas is somebody who is appealing to that niche part of New Hampshire's 1st district. That's pretty safe. Tom Keene will retain a seat. That's easy. Again, look at the margins. Gabrielle Vasquez could totally lose to Yvette Harrell. In fact, if Trump does better with better than George W. Bush with Hispanics compared to 2004, then I think Yvette would win. Again, Yvette Harrell, I think a lot of Mexicans would vote for that. And honestly, when it comes down to it, New Mexico has been trending pretty far left historically in the Obama era, but it's been coming back to reality as fracking has become a bigger industry and the Democrats have become a completely joke establishment shell of itself when it comes down to energy policy. And so I think if a Mexican actually steps up and actually articulates that message, I think they could win. Now, Anthony Despacito is probably going to lose. I mean, in a polarized election, you can't win by you can't win in a district that Biden won by 15. It's just not possible. Lawler might be close enough. Lawler's really cutting it close. In fact, I really don't know what to make of this, but I'm saying it's blue because, again, he would have to do a ton of ticket splitting to win in New York. In fact, I think that he would have to outperform Trump by over 5% at least. So, I mean, as of right now, I'm not confident, but I would have to look into the race. Molinaro will likely keep his seat. That's only a 4.5, way less of an ask. Brandon Williams, again, 11.4. You can't really trump that, ironically. Marcy Carpenter might be felted. We don't know about Captor, though. She seems to obviously be in the House way longer than anybody else. I think she's mogging and teabagging Pelosi in terms of seniority. Like, it's actually crazy here. 21 terms. God dang. So will this be the magical or not so magical time she'll lose? We don't know yet. I would say she'd probably, I don't know. Look, I'd say math-wise, she'd probably lose because, again, Trump is going to win this district by probably 5. But you have to also understand that if you're that goated, you've been in there for 42 years in Ohio, I doubt that the voters would change their minds by too much insofar as ticket splitting is concerned. And so she might actually stay. Amelia Sykes is somebody who will also likely stay. She outperformed Biden, and so that just seems a little clear to me. Now, I would have to look into that one. Lori Chavez is somebody who is in an awful district when it comes to Oregon. It got redistricted. It's ugly as hell nowadays. So, no, thank you. She's going to lose. Susan Wild is probably going to I thought she was retiring. Oh, that's Pennsylvania. Okay. Yeah, Trump will do better in this district for sure. So I think a Republican would win that. Ryan McKenzie. Matt Cartwright is somebody who would also get toppled over. This is a pretty competitive district, and Trump would probably win the district by more than he did in the previous election, so that's pretty clear. Perry staying. DeLuzio, I think, is staying. Jen Kiggins is probably going to stay in the 2nd district. Spanberger is somebody who I believe is almost going to lose this district by leaving the district. It leaves it more open to Vindman and Anderson, but Anderson is likely to not win that for the Republicans because, again, it was a Biden +7. Harris might win it by 2 or 3, and so the Republican nominee for House would have to do a lot better to compensate. So right now, we're leaving it blue. It could change. Mary Perez, the incumbent for Democrats, is going against Joe Kent, who almost won in the last election. He lost by about 1 percentage point. Trump will likely do better in this place in Washington's 3rd district, and so I think Kent will probably beat Perez by 1 or 2 points. And so right now, you get the final result, folks. The final result right now is 224 House seats for the Republicans to the Democrats 211. That is a differential of 13 points to the affirmative of the Republicans. And I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, you're going to see a big win. They're going to have a 13-seat majority, which is better than the 8 they have currently. That actually means a ton because it gives them about twice as much wiggle room as to not lose votes for important initiatives like the omnibus spending bills and whatever else comes down the pike. And so for that reason, this is a big win for Republicans. Again, it doesn't even matter so much if Trump wins or loses. The Republicans are still probably 60% likely to win the House either way. And so that's my current prediction. And I'll be on vacation for the next 4 days, I believe. So I'll make some pre-recorded videos for y'all. So anyways, I've been pretty busy. I'll see y'all in the next one. Like the video and subscribe. See ya. Bye. Adios even.